This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. It is Tuesday, March 31st. I'm Efrem Graham. Ahead today, more warnings from the White House of the impact the coronavirus could have on the United States. As President Donald Trump encourages Americans, the more they work to stop it now, the sooner the battle will be over. Could we be wearing masks to prevent the spread of the virus? The president says it's possible. We're going to ask our medical reporter Lori Johnson more on that. As a megachurch pastor in Florida is arrested for holding Sunday services in violation of a safer at home order. The mayor of New York is in a fight with churches, saying some buildings could be permanently closed. And Israel is among the countries around the world closing the borders to stop the virus. But we're going to show you why the Jewish state is allowing one particular group of immigrants in. All those stories and more are ahead in this edition of CBN NewsWatch. I want to begin this half hour with the president calling on Americans to keep up the fight against the spread of the coronavirus, but warning there will be tough times ahead as the number of deaths in the United States keeps climbing, and the government measures to stop the disease are taking a terrible toll on the economy. Our George Thomas is on this story.
With nearly half of all states now reporting more than 1,000 confirmed cases of the coronavirus and the death toll passing the 3,000 mark, the president is warning Americans to prepare for difficult days ahead.
The more we dedicate ourselves today, the more quickly we will emerge on the other side of the crisis.
The White House extending social distancing guidelines for another 30 days as health experts warn the peak in the death rate is likely to hit in 2 weeks, with the pandemic hitting every metro area in the country.
If the metros and the rural areas don't take care now, by the time you see it, it has penetrated your community pretty significantly.
New York, still the epicenter of the virus outbreak. The governor there appealing for more medical volunteers to deal with the surging deaths.
We've lost over 1,000 New Yorkers. To me, we're beyond staggering already. We've reached staggering.
Cases in California are also growing. Meanwhile, governors of Virginia and Maryland announcing that stay at home is no longer a suggestion, it's an order.
Under this order, everyone in Virginia must remain in their place of residence unless they must go out for food, supplies, work, medical care, or to get fresh air or exercise.
2/3 of Americans across 32 states now have stay-at-home orders in effect. All this putting enormous strain on a nation where record numbers are now also out of work. Macy's, Kohl's, and Gap, the latest to fall victim to the pandemic. Company heads putting tens of thousands of their employees on furlough. The White House saying help is on the way after lawmakers passed a $2 trillion stimulus package last Friday.
Within 3 weeks, we'll have direct deposit into people's accounts.
Many laid-off workers asking, will it be enough?
Supposedly, they're sending us $1,200 from the federal government, which will not pay my rent. I guess it's better than nothing.
Health officials now warning that even if the social distancing guidelines are followed perfectly, the nation will see a huge surge in cases and fatalities. George Thomas, CBN News.
And our medical reporter Lori Johnson joins us now with more. So we heard the president talk about possibly every American wearing a mask. How effective would these be?
Well, this is actually, Efrem, a very controversial subject. The CDC from China, the Chinese CDC, really recommends Americans do that. And they say in China that it really reduced the spread of the disease. But here's the problem. A lot of people develop a false sense of security when they're wearing these masks. And again, we're talking about the surgical masks, not the N95, which we know right now that all hospital personnel need the N95 masks. So unless you have COVID-19, you should not be wearing an N95 mask. Those masks should go to hospital personnel. But if you have COVID-19, you should not be outside and near public anyway. But we're talking about the surgical masks, which only protect other people. So if you're wearing a surgical mask, that prevents the droplets coming out of your mouth from infecting other people. But it's really interesting. They say that you can make your own surgical masks with fabric. So if you have a sewing machine, and it's a great project to do, Joanne Fabrics on their website has how to do that. And even just wearing a bandana might be a good thing. But again, The problem here is when people have these masks on, they think I can go anywhere, I can get close to people, I can touch anything, and it does actually could have the opposite effect of what we want.
Yeah, indeed. Now, the FDA has given an emergency authorization for 2 drugs. We're talking about chloroquine and hydrochloroquine to treat the coronavirus. What's the difference between these two?
Well, it's funny that when we first started talking about these anti-malaria drugs, no one could pronounce them. Now everybody's like, yeah, chloroquine, hydrochloroquine. I say it in my sleep. So actually, chloroquine is the older of the two. This is about 70 years old, and we know that it was originally developed to treat malaria. And then hydrochloroquine is a little bit less toxic, and we know that it is also used not only to treat malaria, but lupus and rheumatoid arthritis. So hydrochloroquine is generally the preferred, but they're all very, very much the same. And actually, chloroquine is a derivative of quinine, which was used in the 1800s to treat fever. So it's interesting to see how these drugs develop and change and are used to treat other problems.
And in terms of these are drugs that can treat, not cure.
That's right. There is no cure. This is a viral disease, and we've been talking for years and years about viruses, the difference between bacterial infections, which we can kill with antibacterial or with antibiotics, but viruses, generally we don't have any way to kill them or treat them except for antiviral medications, and remdesivir is one of these that's showing enormous promise, but right now we're trying to just treat them and lower the symptoms, and we've seen amazing results in preliminary studies of being able to reduce the viral load, as doctors say, in as few as 6 days.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Lori. Much appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Florida officials arrested megachurch pastor Rodney Howard-Browne after detectives said he held 2 Sunday services with hundreds of people and violated the Safer at Home order.
People have gone totally crazy. As the president said, he wants to get everybody back worshiping God come Easter Sunday. That needs to happen.
The president has dropped the goal of reopening the economy by Easter, and Pastor Howard-Browne turned himself in to police.
His reckless disregard for human life put hundreds of people in his congregation at risk, and thousands of residents who may interact with them this week in danger.
Pastor Howard-Browne was released after posting bond. He says the church is an essential business. Liberty Counsel, who is representing him, says the church took several extra precautions before the service to limit the possibility of spreading the coronavirus. As the nation, healthcare workers and first responders keep up the fight against COVID-19, the Potter's House Church in Dallas has made it their mission to make sure that those working around the clock are seen, heard, and honored. The ministry delivered more than 1,000 meals to 3 hospitals and 14 police stations all over the city with a simple message: thank you. And Bishop T.D. Jakes told CBN's The Prayer Link that although the virus is causing a national crisis, it is teaching people to value one another.
I think that the world was headed in the wrong direction. Too much hate, too much malice, too much vitriol, too much disrespect for each other. And this pandemic has become a tool, as rugged as it is, as horrific as it is, that has forced us to rethink how we define our neighbor and who our brothers are and how we respond to people with dignity and respect. Even if we don't agree about this, that, or the other, or we come from a different generation, we're still part of God's family. And I think that this has been a wake-up call to the entire planet.
Now, to see the full interview with Bishop T.D. Jakes and to hear from other faith leaders, you can watch The Prayer Link. You can catch it this evening on the CBN News Channel. It begins at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. Many people are turning to online medical services during the coronavirus outbreak. Telemedicine services have also been long restricted by the government regulations. But as Americans are urged to stay at home, states and federal agencies are now doing all they can to help the patients get the necessary health care that they need. Caitlin Burke brings us the story.
Across the country, Americans are being told to stay home and practice social distancing. But what happens if you need to see a doctor? The answer is telemedicine.
In a crisis such as COVID-19, our goal is to really benefit the public to decrease the risk of infection. And telemedicine is a perfect opportunity to do that.
Telemedicine gives patients the opportunity to meet with their healthcare provider virtually via video, phone, or text. The federal government has already expanded telemedicine options for those on Medicare.
What's really important about this is that the federal government is now recognizing the fact that the risk to our seniors of taking an in-person visit with their doctor is pretty high. And by limiting the telehealth benefits, we may contribute to the problem.
Telemedicine can be used for things that would typically send you to the doctor's office, like bronchitis, sinus infections, and prescription refills. It can also be effective in keeping patients who believe they may have COVID-19 out of emergency rooms or doctor's offices where they can spread the virus to others.
Right now, our most common visit is upper respiratory infection, which is, common cold, sinusitis, fever, cough. A lot of these symptoms are the same symptoms you see with COVID.
Telemedicine practitioners say they're still able to come to an accurate diagnosis by taking a patient's history and taking advantage of some other useful medical tricks.
While I might not be able to listen to someone's lungs, I could actually look at their respiratory pattern if they're actually breathing fast. We could actually have the patient take their own heart rate.
Medical providers around the country are now transitioning to telemedicine, and insurance companies like Anthem and Cigna are waiving patient copays for virtual appointments. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
And stay with us for the latest on the coronavirus as we provide updates on the CBN News channel and throughout the day at cbnnews.com. Coming up, with houses of worship around the country being told they shouldn't or they can't meet because of the coronavirus guidelines, the situation in New York City has become particularly intense. We're going to hear about that story when we come back.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5 Wednesday night at 9:30.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Faith communities across the country have been asked not to hold worship services during these days of social distancing. Conservative radio host and commentator Todd Starnes tells our Mark Martin New York City's mayor is taking it a step too far with a threat to close churches permanently.
Todd, tell us, why are you so concerned about this warning from New York City's Mayor Bill de Blasio?
Well, I've been saying for quite some time that I believe the greater threat to the United States is not necessarily the COVID-19 virus, but it is, in fact, the attacks on our civil liberties. And, there's really no other way to say this other than the fact that Americans, by and large, have been willing to sacrifice some of their civil liberties for the sake of their public safety. And that's why I'm very concerned with what's happening here, especially in New York City. But quite frankly, I believe we're looking at great government overreach here.
You say he's threatening churches with permanent building closures if they don't adhere, and you're even calling the situation a police state?
Well, it certainly does seem more like a police state here in New York City, especially in light of the mayor's announcement. Mayor Bill de Blasio just a few days ago put out a warning to every church and synagogue. And he was very clear to reference churches and synagogues who are still meeting. And that has been an issue. There have been some churches, there have been some synagogues in New York City that have still been holding corporate worship and corporate gatherings in their church buildings. And so the mayor came out and said that stops now. He said any church that is worshiping in their building will be shut down. The mayor went on to say that he will use the police department, the fire department, the health department, and building inspectors to enforce these closures. Any church or synagogue that refuses to comply could be subjected to fines. And the mayor said if they continue, the buildings will be permanently closed. Those are his words now, permanently closed.
Do you think the mayor's concern for public safety is greater right now than constitutional rights? I mean, you touched on that earlier in the interview. Do you think New Yorkers see it that way? Break it down for us.
Well, look, I do believe that the mayor is doing this for the sake of public safety. I don't believe he's out there trying to shut down churches for some other, nefarious reason. The mayor, as a matter of fact, said in his press conference that it brought him no joy to shut down the churches. But the issue here is, does the government have a constitutional right to do that? And I do not believe that's the case. As a matter of fact, we've talked to several religious liberty experts, and they tell us that would be an overreach by the government. Now, here is the big issue. There are really two issues here. Number one, the government is being heavy-handed. They do not have a right to tell a church what they can and cannot do. That being said, and here's the other issue, churches have a responsibility to take care of their parishioners and their congregations. And right now, it seems to me to be fairly reasonable to postpone your corporate gatherings and move your services online until this danger passes.
How do we walk the fine line between public safety and constitutional rights in the midst of fighting this virus? Let's talk not just New York City, but the big picture.
Well, look, we've been hearing reports from all over America of police departments showing up at churches and telling them that they will be shut down. We talked to a pastor in the state of Illinois. The local sheriff's department showed up and they were actually counting cars in the parking lot and they were photographing license plates of people. We had a report from Louisiana where they were told that if they did not shut down their services, the National Guard would come in. The National Guard would be called in. But it goes beyond just churches. Again, we're talking about civil liberties here. That's why in many states you've got governors that are trying to crack down on gun ownership. They want to shut down the gun stores. That's a big problem. So the issue here is a power issue. And it's important for all of us, for every freedom-loving patriot, to make sure that our constitutional rights are not being violated for the sake of public safety.
All right, Ton Starnes of tonstarnes.com. Thanks for your time, sir.
Thank you.
Leaders around the world are closing their borders to immigrants, and that's the case in Israel. But they are making an exception for one group. We're going to explain when we come back.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
I think as a father, it's my job, to lead, just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Or
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
Welcome back. Many countries are closing borders to foreigners due to the coronavirus. Israel is following suit, with one exception, welcoming Jewish immigrants to make Aliyah by coming home to Israel, even during this crisis. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl is on this story.
While the special festivities that usually welcome these immigrants called Olim are on hold, you can see in these images people are still completing their journey.
Aliyah never stopped to Israel, and it doesn't stop now, even with the coronavirus. For 72 years, we are bringing Olim to Israel, and we are continuing to do it.
Nefesh B'Nefesh helps bring these immigrants from North America.
Most of the Olim that are coming have begun their planning stages a long time ago. People are seeing the pandemic stretching from both sides of the ocean. I think it was giving them a lot of security to come to Israel, where they feel that the crisis is being managed as best as possible.
Svi and Aviva Karoli came from New York with their children, Lonnie and Adi, although they faced an immediate 14-day quarantine. We caught up with them by video during their isolation.
I mean, we didn't specifically plan on coming during coronavirus. It's just we planned on coming in March, and it happened to be. And we're going to change our plans.
We don't know in the world what's going to be happening 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, 3 months from now. So why delay? There's no better place to be than Israel. Despite everything, we took the jump and we came.
Neighbors who they didn't yet know left food outside their apartment and brought toys for the children.
There is never a perfect time, but it's always the right time. And to just come here because the people of Israel are wonderful.
David Parsons says the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem is helping bring in people from Russia and Ethiopia.
Some Jews are saying, look, Israel seems to be doing better than others, and especially the Jews from Russia. And it's not only the coronavirus, which is just hitting Russia, but the steep drop in oil prices. The Russian economy depends on it. And so there's a lot of Russian Jews who have actually moved up their aliyah.
More than 900 new immigrants have arrived in just the last month. The Jewish agency, which is responsible for Aliyah, expects more than 1,000 by Passover. Given the current situation, they have prepared this video to help newcomers through the process.
There's a very strict process, and we prepare them. They have to sign the legal document that they are declaring that when they land to Israel, they will go to quarantine. Once landing in Ben Gurion Airport, they go through a digital process where they get the Teudat Ole certificate on the WhatsApp, going home to quarantine. And when they're finishing the 40 days of quarantine, they go to Israeli Klita and to claim the entire benefits and rights that are waiting for them in Israel.
During the 1991 Gulf War, new immigrants received gas masks due to the threat of chemical warfare. Shai Felber of the Jewish Agency says such events don't stop Aliyah.
Every crisis brings its own opportunity. And we estimate that after this crisis, many people in Jewish communities around the world will suffer from economical problems. Obviously, we know in Italy and other places. And I estimate that if Israel will overcome this crisis from the financial point of view, because I'm sure we will overcome the coronavirus itself, then obviously people will come to live in Israel.
The Bible says God will bring his people back to Israel from around the globe, and apparently even a worldwide pandemic won't stop it. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Coming up, another example of the importance of prayer in the coronavirus era as hundreds of people gather in a hospital parking lot in Georgia to pray for patients and the workers on the inside. Stay with us.
Yeah, buddy.
How many nickels are in a dollar?
There are 20 nickels in a dollar.
How do birds fly? Does milk really make my bones stronger?
Yeah.
Daddy, when we die, will we go to heaven?
Do you have the answer to life's biggest question? Call the 700 Club. We'll help you find answers to the important questions life brings your way.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs from health to entertainment you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. To watch the CBN News Channel, download the app or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Hello, I'm Dr. David Perlmutter, board-certified neurologist and #1 New York Times bestselling author. Wouldn't it be great to boost your energy, eliminate brain fog, and even reverse brain disease? Well, you can, and I'm going to show you how, along with some of the world's most well-respected brain experts, in this DVD, Protect Your Brain.
Get Protect Your Brain, a free DVD only from the Christian Broadcasting Network, featuring experts on the cutting edge of neuroscience and brain health.
No matter how many times you've failed in the past, you really can do this.
In Protect Your Brain, you'll discover simple strategies to keep your brain young and healthy. Improve your memory. Discover the gut-brain connection. In Protect Your Brain, get your free copy at cbn.com or call 1-800-700-7000.
If you want to improve the quality of your life, get the DVD Protect Your Brain and get it today.
We've been bringing you prayers from Christian leaders from the church, for the nation, the world during this coronavirus outbreak. But today, something a little different. Hundreds of people gathering in cars outside a hospital in Georgia, praying in the name of Jesus Christ for protection and healing for patients and workers. That's the report from author Tiffany Fitzhenry, who posted this video on Twitter. Similar scenes played out across the country. Time now for your Tuesday Tweetable. I pray this word will encourage you, and perhaps you'll post, tag, tweet, and share it with those in your circle. Know this: disruption can change your plan, but no earthly disruption can change the plan of heaven. God has the final say, and He's bigger than any mountain, visible or invisible. With that word, make this a terrific Tuesday. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can always find more of our programs on the CBN News Channel at any time or online at cbnnews.com. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. Email us at newswatch@cbn.com. And we're available on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. Make it a terrific Tuesday, everybody.